Through history, battles have been won by big hitters. The army with the most bombs, the most tanks, the most planes usually wins. On the ground, same story. Rapid fire, rapid death.
Rapid fire makes the enemy do what you want him to do, which is stop trying to shoot you.
Get locked and loaded as we go back through generations of technology to find out how machine guns, assault rifles, and submachine guns became the best of the best.
I gotta get me one of these.
Rapid fire. It's time to go ballistic. In the 21st century, rapid-fire weapons are the fastest, deadliest, baddest firearms on the block. The latest models take it to the next level. The Heckler & Koch MP7 punches well above its weight. Using compact ultralight polymers, it weighs in under 4 pounds. But when it comes to firepower, it's an undisputed heavyweight. 950 rounds per minute, all designed to penetrate body armor.
The capacity to kill has gone through the roof.
Currently issued to German Special Forces units, the MP7 is designated as a personal defense weapon. Short enough to go close quarters, hard-hitting enough to slap the enemy down. Now, weaponology will unlock its family tree, going back through generations of technology to reveal how heavy caliber machine guns, submachine guns, assault rifles, and automatic rifles evolved into the most advanced rapid-fire weapon on the planet, the MP7. The history of rapid fire goes back to the 1860s, when Richard Gatling, a self-proclaimed pacifist, unveiled his 11th patent application, a gun so terrible it would make war impossible.
Richard Jordan Gatling put his mind to the problem of rapid fire, and he believed that you could get round the difficulty of loading an individual barrel, which was always the issue. How do you load and fire an individual barrel quickly? He got round it by having a lot of barrels, and it was really a wonderful idea.
Gatling was obsessed with cyclical motion. He designed ship propellers, wheat drills, bicycle wheels, and infamously, the first repeating firearm in history. He figured out a way of turning a wheel to load and fire multiple barrels and multiple bullets instantly.
As soon as they would turn the crank, it would fire not one barrel, but multiple barrels. As it turned around, you would fire one barrel and then load it, and then the next barrel would come up ready to be loaded and fired.
The Gatling represented a whole new philosophy of warfare. Minimum manpower, maximum firepower.
All right, crank her up!
With a Gatling gun, you now had a weapon which a small crew could operate, 2 to 5 soldiers, and this one weapon would have the firepower of 100 or 200 soldiers on the battlefield.
I gotta get me one of these.
The Gatling was heavy, 90 pounds, and got wheeled into battle on a carriage. As a result, the military saw it as an artillery piece, not unlike their Napoleon gun. 19th century cannons fired canister shot against infantry. The metal canister was full of lead balls, like a giant shotgun cartridge.
Everybody was trying to make a better canister gun. When you shoot canister like out of the Napoleon, it comes out like a cone. It's always spreading on all angles. A Gatling gun lets you keep them all on a plane. So you're keeping your ammunition right where the height of a person, and you can just mow down the enemy.
The Gatling looked like the future, a locomotive of death, but it had a major flaw. Its design had outstripped the bullets it fired. Metal cartridges were still on the drawing board, and the handmade paper-encased rounds of the day caused regular jams.
The Gatling gun was relatively slow to make its presence felt. Now, in part, that's because the first version didn't use proper metallic cartridges, so cartridges needed to develop. It also jammed quite often and was on a cumbersome carriage.
These glitches meant that at the time of the Civil War, just a handful of Gatlings were sold, most to a general on the Union side.
Federal forces, the federal government was not interested in. They saw the drawbacks of the invention and the lack of reliability. But a General Benjamin Butler purchased some on his own behalf with his own finances and set the ball in motion.
Butler bought 12 Gatlings at a cost of $1,000 each. On the Petersburg front, they rained death on Confederate forces and made traditional tactics look stupid.
They still stuck to linear warfare, the charge forward. And the Gatling gun would knock as many down as possible. They could break a charge pretty quick if you had a couple Gatlings working real well.
By 1865, Gatling had improved the weapon. It now chambered modern cartridges and jammed less frequently. Gatling's beast roared. Gatling-type guns were even more effective against enemies unused to heavy weapons. In 1890, in the last battle between American troops and Native Indians, 153 Sioux Indians were indiscriminately mown down at Wounded Knee.
The Gatling gun gives you a high rate of fire, a high volume of fire, and a lot of the fear factor when going up against people who are used to rifles but are not used to this new horrible machine.
Over a century later, the Gatling is a museum piece, an elegant chunk of American history. It looks harmless enough until you crank that handle.
This was one burst out of my one Gatling gun on this area. My daughter aimed at the back because it was her car and she wanted rid of it. That was inside. Anybody that gives $3,000 for it will deliver. Most people don't realize that the gun that shoots a projectile that was designed 120 some years, 130 years ago, will go through the whole way in a modern automobile. It renders them into junk pretty quick.
Gatling claimed he invented his gun to end wars. By the late 20th century, he'd become the Henry Ford of industrialized death. But Gatling's invention was eventually outstripped by an even more destructive rapid-fire legend.
As long as you keep cold water flowing around the barrel, you can keep killing.
Machine guns, assault rifles, submachine guns, the deadliest family of weapons on the planet. With rapid fire, there's nowhere to hide. In 1861, Richard Gatling invented the first rapid-fire weapon. But by the late 19th century, it was obsolete. To find out why, you have